Quotations from myself, segment 67, quotation number 855. A man is a task-oriented animal. This is most clearly visible in his daily activities, which could be more or less neatly divided into several relatively small and routine tasks, each of which goes through the three stages: intention, execution, and completion. And when each of these daily tasks are accomplished as planned, the satisfaction follows almost automatically as a reward in itself, and no less important than others, more practical considerations. On the other hand, the failure to finish what was intended brings the unpleasant feeling of inadequacy and guilt. This purposefulness of man is less obvious, though still discernible, when tasks become larger and larger and consequently require longer periods of time, weeks, months, years, to be completed. Yet rare is a man who views his whole life as a goal, though at the end it must be the most important task of all the intermediate ones he has undertaken during his life, no matter how important they were and how successful he was in accomplishing them. It is also the most difficult one to define. Yet unless one has done so, and the earlier the better, the gnawing feeling of dissatisfaction never leaves him, even if all the intermediary goals are completed well. For the biggest question, what they all were for, always remain unanswered, and life seems but a collection of incidental, desultory events, lacking overall purpose and direction. It is therefore absolutely crucial for one peace of mind to find first of all what one's goal or mission in life is, by trials and errors, by successes and failures, by any means possible. Once this goal is determined, within the humanly possible degree of certainty, of course, one has to stick to it, come hell or high water, and to endure and persevere for as long as it takes, usually the rest of one's life, to complete it. After that, the inevitability of death, which sooner or later we all have to acknowledge, wouldn't be as devastating as the one who knows too well that his life has essentially been wasted. Page 856. There is some evidence, whether historical or anecdotal it is hard to tell, that Plato started as a dramatic poet, but later sorry for interruption, let me start again. Number 856. There is some evidence, whether historical or anecdotal it is hard to tell, that Plato started as a dramatic poet, but later, either because of the lack of success or after meeting Socrates and discovering the joy of search for pure truth, became a philosopher. On the other hand, judging by the considerable philosophical content of his plays, which displays more than superficial knowledge of the contemporary thoughts and ideas, Euripides must have started as a philosopher and later became a dramatist. Now, let's imagine for a moment that each man had pursued his originally intended career, Plato as a dramatic poet and Euripides as a philosopher. How would the development of Western philosophy and theater have looked like by now, considering the immense genius both men possessed and their enormous importance in the history of philosophy and the theater. Furthermore, if one subscribes to the notion that great ideas and great art have a great influence on the general history of civilization, how about supposition would have changed its course? And if one is looking for example of single individual altering the course of history, there is no need to travel far back in the past. For if Hitler, as a young aspiring artist, had been admitted to Academy of Fine Arts in Vienna, the world we live in now would have been a very different place indeed. 857. Proposition. In the New World, countries of immigrants such as the United States or Canada, the ethnic divisions stand in inverse proportion to the availability of jobs. That is, this society will become increasingly divided along the ethnic lines as the job opportunities, especially for the newcomers, get progressively scarce, and vice versa. Proof. 1. A job is of paramount importance in the life of an immigrant, not only to satisfy his immediate material needs, but also because his social status in the new society almost entirely depends on it. While in the old country, one's social position was largely determined by family, friends, the neighborhood, village, or city one grew up in, as well as one's reputation. All this, upon the arrival of the new shores, are left behind as no longer relevant, and the job assumes all out of proportion significance in an immigrant's life. Witness the questions the strangers ask each other after introduction. What are you doing for a living? What is your field of work, etc.? They are always, one way or another, related to one's job and absolutely crucial to the evaluation of one's social standing. 2. More than any other times, in the time of job scarcity, any job, especially the good one, is obtained through connections. Based on my own experience and observation of others, I hold this truth to be self-evident. In the old country, one relied on family and friends for such connections. All these, again, are to the large extent lost in the process of immigration, and in the New World, for the first and even second generation of immigrants, such personal job-getting connections are largely unavailable. As a result, the ethnic community assumes the role of a surrogate family as the next best provider of them. Consequently, maintaining the close ties with one's ethnic group becomes more and more the economic rather than social-cultural imperative. This situation leaves the newly and not so newly arrived immigrant with little choice whether to try to assimilate into society at large or not. The necessity to find a job forces him to stick to his own ethnic community, whether he wants or not. Thus, the assimilation of mainstream society is in reality retarded, and the ethnic division flourish, which was the proposition to prove. Corollary 1. Since the already employed member of ethnic community can only help newcomers to find a job where they are working themselves, there is a tendency for certain professions and even industries to become mono-ethnic, which leads to the further division of society along the ethnic lines. Corollary 2. The fullest possible employment is the only way to prevent the country of immigrants from disintegration into the separate ethnic communities. When jobs are available for everybody, dependence on ethnic connections to get one disappears, and everyone is turned into a free agent, so to speak. And as a free agent, the overwhelming majority of newcomers would opt for the membership in the largest possible group, which is the society as a whole. And this is another self-evident truth, based on the American experience, for the fire under the proverbial melting pot has been fueled by the unprecedented in human history, economic expansion, and growth of job opportunities. 858. The only reason there is still some fish left in the ocean is that man is not an aquatic animal. But since the advancement of technology helped man to overcome this biological handicap, it is only a matter of time before the edible and those who just got in the way, creatures of the sea, will experience the same fate as befallen the land animals that man has found useful or entertaining to kill. 859. Not every would go to hell in a handbasket. The privileged few as usual shall travel the first class in the Gucci bag. 860. A man is characterized not so much by the way he makes money, but by how he spends them. 861. Despite the indisputable fact that ours are the most enlightened of all previous time, the excessive religiosity, no matter how bizarre and irrational by today's standards, is still treated, even by those who consider themselves to be freethinkers, with a kind of respect bordering on veneration that used to be accorded in the past to the saints. Why is it that irrationality in the name of religion so much more acceptable than in any other of human endeavors? Is it because every religion has, as an important part of its creed, the code of ethics, and we automatically assume, contrary to the numerous evidence to the contrary, that the more religious person is, more ethical his and her behavior would be? Or is it because the time of enlightenment induced uncertainty, when every additional piece of knowledge seems to reinforce instead of overturning it, those who claimed with apparently unshakable conviction to be certain of something, at least, are looked at as a rare exception to the rest, who can no longer be certain of anything? Or is it because they symbolize the past, which is always shrouded in nostalgia? Or is it because they seem to be more content and happier than the rest of us?